Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Daily Volatility Box report for December 4th, 2019. We are TOSindicators.com, home of the Volatility Box. I am broadcasting this video from India, so I did make it. Thank you all that wish me a safe and happy flight. I appreciate all of your wishes and your kind words in terms of both just everything being okay here. So once again, just thank you all for the support. Appreciate it. In today's video, we'll cover both yesterday and today's activity. And in particular, we're going to cover Shopify, as well as the copper futures and then the bond futures, right? And so copper futures have given us some really nice entries, whereas the bonds have actually blown past our entries, which again gives us information. And then Shopify is based off of our Stock Volatility Box tool, which is a brand new tool in which we had a beautiful fade when Shopify was up close to 21 bucks today. All right, so we'll start with Shopify. So the way we actually run the volatility box for Shopify is by using our stock volatility box tool, SLY, CPRI, Shopify, CBS, all of these. And if you'll notice, I can just alternate between any of these charts, and I suddenly have the stock volatility box tool for each one of these tickers, right? And so now we'll go back to Shopify in particular. And so with Shopify, we had our move come as price opened and we started to climb up higher. So if I pull out my drawing tool here, we see that price started to make its way up, and then we hit what would be our volatility box entry line right here. So as price slammed into our volatility box, we had an opportunity to have this reversal short right here at the 376.91 mark, actually a few cents short of the actual high, since our level was right at the actual beginning of the clouds. Our first target is this dashed line right here, which we hit almost right away. Sort of a stress-free trade, and then we had a touch-up of, again, our entry, right? And so for those of you that move your entry to a break-even, this is where you would have gotten out on the second half of your position. But for those of you that, say, traded options or something of that sort, or just take off most of your position right here, you had a really nice gain. And while this doesn't look like a lot in the grand scheme of the overall move of Shopify, let's remember that this is close to what? Let's see. $7, right? About a 1.88% move in Shopify that took place over maybe 11 bars, so 33 minutes. And so I think that's where the power of Shopify comes in. Even after it's had a really nice move up, you still have the opportunity to look for a trade in which you're not too late to the party, but in fact you're trying to time the reversal, but do so using statistics and probability on your side, as well as levels that are based on the actual personality of the stock. Like this, you can run all of the volatility box, or you can run the volatility box for all of these tickers, which we did. But in the interest of time, we'll move on to our copper futures. And so pulling up our copper futures, we're going to take a look at yesterday's activity in particular on copper. And we had an opportunity to have multiple entries in the copper futures, which I'll cover. So our first entry came as price fell into the close of the morning hour when the market's open. And so the copper market has been open 1 hour prior to essentially when we're looking for an entry, right? And so that's where we had the idea that, okay, the copper volatility box is respecting our aggressive volatility box, and the copper market is where we can start to look for some entries. And so we had our entry come as price fell into our volatility box line. Now keep in mind that copper is a little bit more aggressive, but this is where we say you can drop down to, say, even a 1 minute chart, a 3 minute chart, whatever you prefer, and start to look for these colored candle switches, right? Which we had from red to orange right here. Again, you didn't get the yellow confirmation, so this is depending on your risk tolerance and how comfortable you are getting into a position early. But this was the first opportunity to go long copper, where we had a really nice move where we hit both our T1 and our T2. Then we had an opportunity to short copper, and once again here you got that same colored switch, right, from our green to yellow candles, letting you know that yes, you have the confidence to take this trade. Orange gives you sort of that utmost confidence, yellow is a little bit more aggressive, and green is the most aggressive out of all of them. And so our stop is outside of the volatility box, and our first target is exactly what we risked, which was hit right here in this move down, and then our second target was also hit. So far copper had hit both our T1 and our T2. Right, and so as we hit our T2 line, we then had an opportunity to go reverse once again, except this time we don't see any sort of color confirmation until we went to orange right here, right? And this is closer to our clouds, so if you did wait for these color transformation switches, you may have missed this entry, but you had a much better entry right here. So it's all a trade-off. Again, just keep that in mind, and there will be days where this alternates, but now looking at this trade, This trade did not give us the same sort of fall through that we were looking for, but in fact, depending on where your stop is, may have actually stopped you out. Again, this was on the plane for me, so not a valid trade, but I'm trying to show you what other people used for the copper trade. And now, if we switch to the bond volatility box, you'll notice something completely different, which is the bonds have been sort of ripping higher, at least on December 3rd, which was yesterday, right? So we saw that price opened up, and then the bonds really just continued to make a really strong move up higher. Our first entry in the bonds would have come right here as price slammed into our cyan entry line, our aggressive volatility box's entry line. We had our stop outside of the volatility box, which was hit, unfortunately, but that also gives us information that the bonds are not staying contained within our volatility box, but instead breaching past our aggressive levels. So here is where we switch on over to our conservative volatility box. But for those of you that like trend trading, this is really your first clue that we are now in the beginning of an uptrend on the bonds, right? And this is where you can start to look at entries using options, something of that sort, where you have a defined risk trade, knowing full well that you wouldn't really want to take a bond risk with upwards of 10 ticks, or actually close to a point of risk, but you might be perfectly okay taking the fade or taking a trend trade with call options on the TLT. So hopefully tonight's video helped give you an idea of how to use the volatility box to trade trends, how to trade fades, how to trade futures, and how to trade stocks. Hopefully these videos will be consistent and easy to make as I'm in India. But again, just stay tuned, stay patient. I appreciate all of you just wishing a safe and happy trip. The well wishes for my family. You guys are awesome. I appreciate you, and we'll see you in tomorrow's nightly update. All right, take care, everyone.